The first thing I want to say is that the title of this video is not meant to be disrespectful in any way. I think we all agree Todo is one of the GOATs of the series. If anything, I am being respectful with the title, in that we love Todo so much, we think he actually deserved more. Todo is really strong, no doubt, but I think that there are factors that came into play when it came to his development as a sorcerer. Factors that I don't see being fixed for a long time, or ever. It's just that a power curve began happening around Shibuya, where every other main character started getting stronger and receiving upgrades, whilst Todo remained still. This was even echoed by Todo and Shibuya himself when he remarks about how strong Yuji had gotten, while he himself has remained still. So I will be breaking this video into 4 parts. Part 1 being the introduction of Todo and the buildup of his aura. Part 2 being the display of his strength throughout Goodwill and what it means for his character's progression. Part 3 will be explaining the power curve that came along in the series and the way these other sorcerers were getting stronger. And the final part, Part 4, will be why Todo missed out on this power curve. First, I want to say if you enjoy JJK content, then I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to the channel. So I post JJK videos every couple days on different topics you guys recommend me, and a few I come up with on my own. Now let's get into the video. Now we get introduced to Todo around chapter 17 when he does the question thing where he asks a sorcerer, what type of girl do you like? And when Megumi gives him an answer he doesn't like, he calls Megumi boring and he dashes towards him in order to hit him. And when he does, he sends Megumi flying backwards. After recovering a bit, Megumi says, Todo, could he be that Todo? Last year, an unprecedented Jujutsu terrorist attack that came to be known as the Shinjuku Tokyo Night of 100 Demons was led by the curse user Ghetto. 6 cursed spirits, 5 grade 1 and 1 special grade appeared on the night line. They were defeated by Todo single-handedly. How did a grade 1 sorcerer win against a special grade? And Megumi said, I hear you refuse to use your curse technique, which Todo said, oh that's just a rumor, I used it against the special grade. And Megumi says he didn't even bother using it against the grade 1 curses, he's a beast. Well, isn't that a relief? And in response to this, Megumi actually uses his New Way plus Toad, which just summons wings on the back of his frogs. And he tries to break down what Todo is by saying, my opponent's a super close combat fighter. I'll keep my distance to nullify his strengths. But right after he says this, he gets blitzed so badly. Todo just appears behind him. And this is one of the worst blitzes I've seen. He's still looking forward. Even all of his new ways and his frogs are still looking forward. And Todo's behind him. And Megumi just gets picked up and he thinks to himself, he's fast, was he going easy on me earlier? To which Todo says, you're so weak, both your body and your taste in women. And he slams Megumi on the back. He begins to push Megumi up against a pillar in a building. And he just keeps taunting him, saying, like I said, you're boring. To which Megumi uses his frogs to try to restrain Todo, and it actually does work for a bit as Todo slows down, in which Todo asks him, are you even trying? And Megumi says, don't get ahead of yourself, if that's what you're thinking, then I'll show you. And this is when Inumaki pulls up and says, don't move, and he ends the fight. This was just the initial introduction of Todo, just him being this brawler type of guy that isn't nice to people. He says that he was being nice by giving Megumi a chance to ask the question and give him an answer about the type of woman he likes. But in reality, that's not nice. Todo thought it was being nice, but Todo was just supposed to be this meathead brawler. But we learned he's not really a meathead later on, but it's just his initial reaction when meeting people is he's sort of not a nice guy. Another thing that we noticed throughout this fight is that he was hyped up to have beaten a special grade cursed spirit, and he was able to beat up the grade 1 cursed spirits without even using his curse technique. This Megumi found absolutely crazy. Todo was so confident he didn't even use his curse technique against grade 1 cursed spirits. This is something Megumi can't even fathom, which is why he did find it so crazy, because Megumi himself would have used his curse techniques, because that's what he does. But coming across somebody like Todo, a brawler who just has an edge, Todo didn't need to do that. And that's where this aura of Todo was being built up here. The first time we meet the guy, he beats the heck out of one of our main characters, and with so much ease. And he doesn't even use his curse technique, which is another thing that is specific to Todo. Everybody else fights with their curse techniques. Inumaki does curse speech, Kamo uses blood, Megumi New Way and his 10 shadows, all of that. Everybody uses their curse techniques, Nobara hairpin and so on. But Todo is the only person who, for the majority of his fights, he just doesn't use it. He just views himself as that much stronger than the opponents that there's no reason to. The only time he had to was against a special grade cursed spirit. And that's where like this aura was really getting built up in. The fact that he didn't even need to use what most sorcerers use in order to beat you up. He just beats you up with cursed energy and physical strength. And that is really the introduction of Todo, a brawler with an edge who asks you what type of girl you like, and depending on your answer, you might get beat up. Now we should move on to part 2, being the display of his strength throughout goodwill and what it means for his character as a whole. So the first thing I want to say for this part is, remember how I said Todo has this aura about him, this aura that was being built up that I talked about in part 1 of the video. Gege says in the fanbook that he based Todo off of Kenpachi and used Kenpachi as a model. It says, I use Kenpachi's "if this guy's around you won't die because he's strong" aura as a model and twisted it into "if this guy's around you won't die because it would turn into a gag" for Todo. So even though it's not the same exact type of model, you know, Kenpachi, you're safe around him because he's strong, you are still safe around Todo because he's strong, and also because, like Gege said, it's sort of a gag. So that is sort of like the aura that has been put into Todo. You're supposed to be safe around this guy, and we see that displayed best later in the series. So going into Goodwill, we knew that he wasn't like exactly against or with Yuji getting murdered by the school. It's like he was sort of indifferent to the whole scenario until when they were all trying to kill Yuji, Todo comes in and he sort of gives Yuji a chance. Yuji gets asked the question that he asked Megami. He asks Yuji which type of woman he likes, and once Yuji says he likes a tall woman with a nice butt, Todo instantly sort of falls in love. He begins having these made up scenes in his head of when him and Yuji were friends as children and how they've grown up together and how they've been basically brothers their entire lives. All of this is just in Todo's head, but it just goes to show how deep of a connection Todo made after just finding out that this guy Yuji was like him in a way. Todo and Yuji actually begin to fight here because Todo basically gives Yuji a chance to fight his way out of the execution that's supposed to happen to him. And as they're fighting, Todo is actually impressed by how strong Yuji is despite his small stature. And Yuji's stature actually isn't like small, it's just Todo saying this because Todo's really big. And then after Todo gets hit by one of the divergent fists that Yuji has, Todo is actually disgusted by it, and he says that everything that's just happened is wrong. He says, "Itadori, my friend, that delayed hit holds you back, doesn't it?" What Yuji says is he talking about my divergent fist. And Todo just begins to like school him on how if he doesn't learn how to control his curse energy, he will just stay weak. And we see Todo actually begin to like take Yuji under his wing and teach him a bit. Yuji actually begins to grow throughout their fight, and Todo sort of just gives him this whole rundown of how curse energy works. He says, most sorcerers have to consciously make curse energy flow, like when you feel anger in your belly or a bad gut feeling. Curse energy nurtured on negativity is said to start from the belly and flow throughout the body. Starting from the belly through the chest, the shoulders, arms, and to the fist, that is how curse energy flows. Thinking of your own body as disparate body parts is what delays your energy. You're not wrong in trying to flow curse energy, but that's just the first step. You can't get stuck there. The flow of energy for an elite sorcerer is difficult to read. Do we think with our stomachs? Do we use our mind to express rage? Listen up, Itadori, we exist in this world with our entire body, mind, and soul. It's so obvious that most everyone has taken that maxim for granted. Which Yuji says, "Todo, thank you, I think I get it now." And Todo says, "Looks like we're done talking, I won't go easy on you. Let's go all out and I'll show you the way. Survive this, Itadori, make your way up here to new heights." So it is like by this point, Todo is a significant margin above Yuji in terms of like everything, knowledge, power, abilities. By this point, Todo is just the clear front runner. And he has taken Yuji under his wing to where he has taught him how curse energy flows. This is where we learned Todo isn't actually like a meathead like a lot of us thought up until this point. Todo knows his stuff, especially when it comes to fighting and curse energy, which is what he teaches Yuji here. Getting into the fight with Hanami, we learned Todo is extremely analytical when it comes down to combat. He begins to analyze all of Hanami's abilities, from the wooden ball to the cursed bud and to the flower field. And then he even sees this thing, this appendage that is on Hanami's arm, and he says, there's the possibility that all of these attacks are just bluffs. It's just a matter of not letting it use its curse technique. Even considering any surprises, with my brain CPU possessing an IQ of 53,000, the expected outcome should be victory. Because I'm not alone, brother, it's because I have you. So obviously, or I'm not gonna say obviously, the IQ is a stretch. Believe that he has a 53,000 IQ all you want. I'm not gonna argue about that. But this is where we learn Todo is extremely analytical. Calling all of Hanami's attacks, like his main attacks, a bluff is sort of crazy. I can't lie, because they definitely aren't. But just him being able to break down these attacks anyway and being able to like strategize a way around them shows how smart Todo is, especially within combat. This is when Todo releases his curse technique, Boogie Woogie, and him and Yuji begin to like crap around and overwhelm Hanami, because even as Hanami says, the size between Todo and Yuji is too great. Every time they swatch, it's affecting Hanami's judgment. And this is how Yuji and Todo begin to just basically beat down Hanami. Now, even though Yuji and Todo were doing a good job of damaging Hanami, even after Todo gets Playful Cloud and hits Hanami, it seems like they're having a lot of trouble actually taking Hanami out. Yes, they're doing good damage, but Hanami isn't going down. They're both just brawlic fighters, so they fight with their fist, and even though their punches are tough and they hurt, they're not enough to actually exercise. At least somebody as tough as Hanami. So with this in mind, Hanami actually begins to open a domain, but luckily before this happens, Gojo pulls up and stops Hanami. Now we don't know what would have happened if Hanami opened this domain. Now yes, we know Todo does have a simple domain. It got shown in Shibuya, so who knows what would have happened. Maybe he would have been safe within his simple domain, but nobody really knows for sure. Todo taught Yuji the ways of curse energy, and this is where we learned that Todo is actually very smart, especially in combat, as he's able to analyze Hanami and come up with the best fight plan possible. And then we also, like I said, the data book statement that we have, saying that you're supposed to feel safe when around Todo. Even though, it is for gag reasons, you still are supposed to feel safe when Todo is around. With that being said, let's get into part 3 of the video, which is the power curve that came right after Goodwill, leading into Shibuya, and how this affected all the main sorcerers in the series. Now, before I get into this new power curve that happened, I do want to bring up one thing about the fight that he has with Yuji and Mahito. Remember when all three of them go into their 120% states and they begin to fight? There's actually one reason why this isn't as impressive for Todo as you might think. Todo is the only person here who is at 100%. Yuji and Mahito are extremely weakened. What I mean by this is, when Mahito gets into the fight, he's looking at the state of everyone's soul. Mahito says the top knot gorilla's soul is at full health. Can I kill him with one touch in the state I'm in? I'd say Itadori's soul is at about 10%, and I'm at 40%. My double being crushed, the rush of those attacks, and that black flash hit took a lot out of me. All because of that stupid girl. For a nobody, she really left her mark. So by this point, Yuji and Mahito are very weak. And by the way, just so you know why their souls being so weak also means that they are weak. If you didn't know, curse energy comes from the soul. It basically is like the engine or the tank for curse energy. The thing that produces curse energy is your soul. If your soul is heavily affected to the point where, like Mahito says, Yuji's soul is only at 10%, it would affect his curse energy output, as that's what you fight with. Use curse energy to coat your entire body. Use curse energy to coat your fist when you punch. Use curse energy in basically every aspect of a fight. So if your curse energy tank, being your soul, is at 10%, no wonder that it really affects you, which is why Mahito says that even only at 40%, he has a lot that has already been taken out of him. So with Yuji being at 10%, Mahito being at 40%, and Todo being the only person at 100%, all of them fighting equally is actually sort of embarrassing for Todo a bit, because Todo should actually be doing better than those two. Todo was at full health, he just pulled up to fight, while Yuji had just got done fighting a hard-fought battle against Choso, and Mahito has been fighting Yuji for like the past 8 chapters. So Todo is the only person who came in basically clean and unscathed, and he still was just equal to everybody else in the battle. And I know you might be thinking, oh, well, it says they're all at 120% of their potential. That does not just deny all of the damage that Yuji and Mahito have taken up to this point. Because remember, Mahito and Yuji had already hit their black flashes before this, before Mahito ever even made this statement that he himself and Yuji were weakened. It was Todo who landed the Black Flash last and then unlocked his 120%. Yuji and Mahito were already in their 120% when Mahito said that they were weakened. So Yuji and Mahito just are weakened. That's just a fact. And that's why Mahito says that their souls are so weakened to the point they're at, where Yuji's is at 10% and his own is at 40. So like I said, Todo should actually be doing better than Yuji and Mahito in this fight, even though he does go on to just be equal. So now that that part of that fight is covered, let me get into the power curve that happened with these other sorcerers. For one, Megami gained a domain. That's one main character out of the way. We saw that once Megami had a change in mindset, he was actually able to unlock this domain for the first time and beat the second finger bearer, which is supposed to be a special grade curse. Megami went from losing badly up against a wall bleeding to beating the heck out of a special grade curse. That is the insane power shift that Megami had himself. And then we saw that Yuji can now just land black flashes. I know that it says that no sorcerer can land black flashes at will, but man, it looks like Yuji is the only person who can land black flashes in any scenario where he needs to. We know that once you land a black flash, you get put in the zone and you have a better understanding of curse energy, and Yuji has just been throwing these around. Yuji matches the world record for consecutive black flashes landed, so even he gets this insane power shift. And then we see even Nobara lands a black flash, you know, the one against Esso and Kechizu. So that's another huge power shift for Nobara. Then we see Maki gets a heavenly restriction. Now this is later, you know, around the chapters like 140, 150 when we're transitioning to the Culling games. But still, Maki gets his heavenly restriction, and now she's on her way to being equal to Toji. We see Mahito grow a lot throughout the series. You know, he lost to Nanami in the sewer, and then even Nanami like remarked on how much Mahito grew and said that if the Jujutsu Society isn't quick in exercising Mahito, then a pile of bodies could happen. Nanami knew from back then that Mahito's growth rate was insane. We saw that Mahito was able to open a domain, like that's how fast he was growing. He opened a domain early in the series, and then Mahito even says that he finds his own growth exhilarating. Like all of these characters are just growing at an extremely fast rate. Not only are these characters that we knew are growing, but we're also getting the arrival of new characters as well. You know, all of the Culling Games characters like Ryu, Uro, Kashimo, they're all showing this incredible display of strength, being able to fight against Yuta. You know, Kashimo was able to fight against Hikari while in his jackpot state. We didn't get introduced to Naoya, who's supposed to be the super fast sorcerer, who was even blitzing Yuji and Choso when he came across them. So it's like all of these new people are coming around and just showing great feats. And there's a reason that I think Todo himself doesn't match up to this. I think there's a specific reason why Todo doesn't have this power shift and meet this power curve. And with that being said, let's get into the final part 4 of this video, and that is Todo's relation to this power curve that happened. Well, the first thing and reason that Todo sort of gets left behind is all of these people now are just gaining domains. Megami has a domain, Mahito has a domain. We see that Ryu, Uro, all of these like new people in the series, Higuruma, all of these characters just have domains. We know that domains are supposed to be like the peak of Jujutsu sorcery. It's like while all of these other people around are gaining them, Todo is being left behind. Dagon has one, you know, Hanami. So it's like everybody else is gaining this peak of Jujutsu sorcery, which is supposed to be like the greatest offense for a sorcerer, while Todo remains to just not have this greatest offense. He has just this brawling fight style with just hands and feet. Now, another thing that Todo missed out on, and you'll notice this very quickly once I say it if you haven't noticed it already, is that everybody has an offensive curse technique that is supposed to be lethal, while Todo just has his hands. And what I mean by this is Todo just swaps with things. It's not like he has a lethal curse technique. For example, we see the blood technique is supposed to be super fast and it's supposed to be very damaging to the opponent. And in Choso's case, even his blood is poisonous. That is a good offensive curse technique. We see Megami has the 10 Shadows, which has a plethora of abilities to be used at any moment. Then we even see, even though it's not a curse technique, Maki gains a curse tool, which is supposed to hit the soul directly. We see Jogo has these burning abilities where he can create little lava things on the wall that are supposed to blow up and hit the opponent. We see Ryu has this granite blast, you know, Uro has sky bending, etc. Literally, I can just keep going on and on. All of these sorcerers have something Todo doesn't. All of these sorcerers have offensive curse techniques. They can hone and train their curse techniques to become stronger, because their curse techniques are lethal. Todo's curse technique isn't lethal. It's not like he can get Boogie Woogie stronger. It's not like you can swap with something stronger than you did before, you know what I mean? You can sort of strategize better to find a better way to use Boogie Woogie, but if we're talking about outputting damage like these other curse techniques, all of these other curse techniques have either more output than the sorcerer, or either faster than the sorcerer themselves, or they're just there to overwhelm a sorcerer. All of these other sorcerers have these offensive curse techniques that are just better than the sorcerer themselves when it normally comes to power and speed, where Todo doesn't have that. Todo's power and speed is based on and only based on his physical stats, like his speed and what he can do with his hands. And that is one reason, and I think the main reason, Todo fell behind the power curve. All of his power is based on his muscles basically, and his curse energy reinforcement. Let's say if we even take his teacher for example, which was Yuki. She can punch just like Todo can punch, but she can apply a bunch of mass to her punches, where she punched through Kenjaku's arms completely, and she can apply a bunch of mass to Garuda, which when she kicked Garuda, it went through a special grade curse spirit in an instant. You see how even his own teacher has an offensive curse technique that just amplifies her power. All of these sorcerers can amplify their power with their curse techniques, except Todo. It's not necessarily like a bad thing, like it does make Todo's character interesting, but if we're talking about power curves, it does leave Todo in the dust just a bit, because all of his power is based on his physical stats. And that's why I brought up Maki, because even though Maki's strength is based on her physical stats as well, she has a heavenly restriction to where she has 0 cursed energy, and now she just has these heightened 5 senses like Toji did, where she can move extremely fast, and she has a curse tool like Toji had curse tools, so they're just pretty broken. Todo still has curse energy. He doesn't have a heavenly restriction to boost him like Maki does. And on top of that, he doesn't fight with cursed tools, so he is even behind the curve with another physical fighter like Maki. Todo is just behind the curve when it comes to offensive attacks. Also want to say Todo was neglected by Gege a bit when it comes to growth as a sorcerer in terms of strength. It seems like Todo was used as a placeholder for Yuji's growth instead of his own, but you know, you can't really blame Gege for doing that. Like Shibuya was used to show Yuji's growth as well, like that was a main part, showing Yuji's path through Shibuya and how he's growing as he goes through. So Shibuya was mainly used to show Yuji's growth alongside Todo, which is sort of like was one of the main points for Todo being there. Yeah, Todo was there for support, but it was also there to show like, wow, look at how Yuji is surpassing somebody who was once stronger than he was. And that is what happened to Aoi Todo. Once again, I want to say this wasn't meant to trash Todo. I am more so respecting Todo and wish he was given just a bit more as a sorcerer. I want to thank you for reaching the end of the video, and please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more JJK content, because I do post videos every other day on different topics that you guys give me and a few I come up with on my own. Thank you for watching. See you next time.